Hey guys, thank you for visiting GT Silver. Today's video is going to be another update. For those that have watched my previous video on what car is my next project car, I am planning on purchasing a new Porsche, or another Porsche I should say. I had a C4S, 2014 C4S up until earlier this year. It's time for, or earlier last year, it's time for a new project car, a new car for the various projects I want to share with you all. Thank you to those who have given me some feedback, input. I think clearly the consensus is so far is that the GTS is the way to go, the GT3 being probably a little bit harder to modify, plus maybe you don't want to modify it. Those types of things. And again, thank you for the feedback. I really appreciate it. With that in mind, really what I intend to do is to find a GTS that is right for me, has the right options, is the car that I can modify, I can do projects on and share those with you, but also drive it as much as I want to drive it. Without concern for preserving it or anything like that. This is a car to be driven and shared with you all. So, as you may already know, there's been speculation over the last couple of years about the next generation GTS models. 991.2 911s, and the model line there came out last year, and people like them and so on. They have the new engine in them, the turbocharged engines, the 3.0 liter, there's been speculation about when the GTS would be available. Well, if you go on any of the message boards, the Porsche forums, there's just a huge amount of hubbub and posts today, early this morning, about the fact that Porsche formally announced the availability of the GTS models, and you can actually find the GTS build your own configurator in the Porsche Germany website. No word yet on specific dates that the GTSs will be delivered in the US, although if you read the boards, you'll find that there are people that have already claimed allocation spots with dealers and their contacts. So this brings me to a dilemma, and one I'll share my thinking with you and let you know what I'm going to do. And the question is, will I buy the 991.2 version of the GTS, or will I go with the 991.1, the first generation GTS, based on the different engine, naturally aspirated versus turbocharged? So I'll answer that question by the end of this video, and of course I'm always interested in what your thoughts are, and what feedback you can provide. And really the question, I think, comes down to, would I buy the 991.2 GTS? I was just buying cars, I had unlimited budgets, no brainer. I would buy it in a heartbeat. It's the first GTS based on the turbocharged engines and all those types of things. But I'd also wait for a GT3, to be honest. But that isn't my objective here. My objective really is to buy a car, reasonable price point, and share the experience of buying that, owning it, projects that I think are useful for other Porsche owners that I'll get into once I own the car. So the question isn't would I. I mean, of course I would. As any Porsche lover, you always want the latest and greatest, I would think. I'm not a purist. Otherwise I probably wouldn't own the 991.1s. The other factor here is that, without knowing timelines yet, I was looking to purchase a GTS in the next several weeks, really. Certainly by February, mid-February, late February. It's awful weather here right now, really cold, snow on the ground, the roads are crap. There's just tons of salt and dirt everywhere. So I'm not in any rush to buy a car and take it out there on the crappy roads. But then I also don't know if I'm gonna end up having to wait, 4 or 5 months to get the 991.2 GTS that I want, since they're just showing up as allocations right now, and who knows what the ordering timelines are going to be, and so on. But let's answer. I think you see where I'm going, but I'll share my final decision to the end of this. But here's what I really like about the 991.1, the first generation GTS based on the 3.8 liter engine. Well, number one, I like the engine, the naturally aspirated engine. I loved it in the C4S. I think with the power kit, it ups the game, gives it more power, of course, but I just think it improves the car. It's something that if I bought a car without the power kit at this point, I'd probably end up adding the power kit, which is rather expensive to add after the fact, certainly. I really like number two. So number one, I like the engine, the naturally aspirated engine. Number two, I really like the wide body. I had the wide body in the C4S. I just couldn't get over how good it looked. The feeling of the visuals of the car, I think were improved quite a bit. And of course, I had, as you know from my projects that I wrote up, I added wheel spacers to push the wheels out a bit in the fender wells and things like that, but you can't beat the rear end of that car. So number two is I really like the wide body styling. I also like the styling of the GTS. They have the black bits, the black wheels, the black badging, the rear grille is black. There's the interior styling, especially if it has the Alcantara with the deviated stitching in red and maybe red dials, things like that. I really like the styling of the GTS, and as I mentioned, the engine with the power kit, and the GTS already comes packaged with most of the desirable performance options, the PSE and so on. What I like about the 991.2 GTS is exactly the same. No surprises. Again, the big difference is the engine, and I really don't care, that it's turbocharged. It's a great car, I'm sure, just like every Porsche after the first Porsche, and everybody has their favorites and reasons why, so I don't need to hear an argument about the engine. Do I think you can get more power out of the new engine? Probably, and I don't know much about the new engine, be honest with you, yet, because I haven't experienced it or anything like that, but having more torque on the low end and having the two turbos that you can improve. I like the fact that the power kit on the GTS 0.2 version is really just bigger turbos. To me, that's a simple upgrade versus the power kit, the X51 kit on the previous generation GTS. You had to drop the engine. You replaced a lot of the internals, the rings, pistons, and so on, and that was a much more complex procedure to add the power kit. The bottom line is there isn't much I don't like about either car. So let's talk about pricing. The new 991.2 GTS obviously is going to go at a sticker shock. It's going to go at a premium, getting on an allocation, putting a deposit in, waiting, and then doing the financial, doing the math. I'm not convinced that it's worth, paying that premium for. As I said before, I think that, as I mentioned in the last video, my days of buying brand new cars, and eating the full depreciation, considering I turn over cars fairly frequently, 2 years, 3 years, sometimes sooner. It just doesn't make financial sense, because I guarantee whatever car I buy now, in a couple of years, I'll probably want something else. So that leads me to the real bottom line here is, the pricing on the pricing on the GTS 991.1 version, the first generation GTS right now is good. It's around where I would want it to be. I can get them for just a shy bit over. I can get a GTS 991.1 for a tiny bit over 100,000 US dollars for cars that were stickering for 120, 130. If I pay a little bit more and get one with you know, the PCCBs, you know, the ceramic brakes, which would be great, and so on. So I think the decision is that I should stick with the 991.1 GTS. I don't care about color. I don't care about certain things. You know, whether it's manual or PDK, I'm okay either way. For the right car with the right other options, I think that's, you know, that's a bigger factor. So what should I do? I'd be interested in what others might say. That's not going to, ultimately I'm going to make the decision my own. I'm just curious, you know, from a dialogue perspective, you know, are there other arguments I'm not considering here? I've heard from mostly current GTS owners about the 991.1 GTS. I'm interested now in what they might say about the 0.2 version as we learn more about it. I certainly don't think going and buying a new C4S to get the wide body or, you know, something like that makes sense at this point. Matter of fact, a C4S with everything that I'd want in it is probably the same price, if not more than the GTS. And the GTS, I think, is a better package deal. So my decision is to buy the 991.1 GTS. I'm going to look for a 15 or 16 GTS. I'm looking for, you know, the decent options. I think I do want the GTS interior, you know, the Alcantara. I know some owners have replaced that or swapped that out for the full leather or things like that. I'm okay with going with the Alcantara and hopefully deviated stitching. I don't really care about the color of the car. Certain colors I prefer, but you know, that's not a deal breaker. I think the car with mileage under 10,000 miles is key. And I think that, I mean, they're definitely out there. Some dealers are charging premiums for them still, which I think is crazy. But, you know, we'll see what happens now that the 0.2 version of the GTS is out. See if any of the current owners start dumping their cars and the price point drops a bit for used. So thank you for any input and feedback you can provide on this topic. I'll probably share with you my trips to check out a couple different cars that I know that are in the area that are GTSs sometime this week or next week. Please subscribe. I know this channel is just getting started. It's a little clunky. I'm learning a lot about you know, shooting video, lighting, sound, all those things. And I guarantee this will improve as I continue to create videos. But thank you. Appreciate your support and your feedback.